In today's video, I'll be sharing my thoughts for a first draft for the 23-24 FPL season. The official player prices haven't yet been revealed, so I'll be using predicted prices from fpl.team. First up in goal probably comes as a bit of a surprise to many of you, but I've decided to go for Muric from Burnley, and I've also decided to go for Peacock Farrell from Burnley as my bench goalkeeper. Burnley lost just 3 matches across the 22-23 Championship campaign, and in that time they conceded on average less than a goal a game. I personally think they're going to bring their strong defensive record into the Premier League this season, and I would predict their keepers to join FPL for a combined total of 8.5 million. Yes, they've got the worst possible start with a match against City, but I'm not looking to use future transfers on goalkeepers, so my thought is to hold them for the long term. We've seen time and time again in FPL how the keepers from lower down teams often score the same if not more points than keepers from some of the top sides. One player who I didn't own at all in the 22-23 FPL season and who completely punished my rank towards the end of the season was Pervis Estupiñán, and I'm fairly confident the Brighton wingback will make it into my starting 11 come the beginning of the season. Estupiñán ended the campaign with 1 goal and 7 assists, and he was a regular feature in De Zerbi's team, starting in every Premier League match following the turn of the year. With Brighton's attacking style of play, and the fact Estupiñán makes plenty of overlapping runs, I expect him to be a popular choice among many fantasy managers when the season kicks off. After a change in formation towards the end of the season, Trent Alexander-Arnold was given a far more creative role playing as a central midfielder, and that was a major reason why Liverpool ended the campaign so strongly. They won 7 matches in a row between Gameweek 31 and Gameweek 36, and during that time, Alexander-Arnold picked up 6 attacking returns. I'm not sure whether or not FPL will reclassify him as a midfielder this season, but my first thought would be to avoid him if that were to happen. As a defender, however, he offers great value for money. My only hope is that Liverpool improve defensively as a whole. My plan this season is to start with 3 solid players in defence who I don't look to change too often. For that reason, I've opted for William Saliba from Arsenal in the final spot. Saliba was a regular feature for Arsenal across the 22-23 season. He played every match until he unfortunately picked up an injury before Gameweek 28 that ruled him out for the remainder of the season. Arsenal arguably have one of the best opening sets of fixtures amongst all teams in the division, so I quite fancy having a piece of their defence. Before his injury last season, Saliba returned 2 goals and 1 assist, and he always offers a decent amount of aerial threat from set pieces. First up in the midfield 5, I've decided on Gabriel Martinelli. Arsenal have a great run of fixtures to kick off the season, so without a doubt I want to include some of their attacking assets in my team. At the start of last season, nobody quite expected the Gunners to do so well in the 22-23 campaign, so the likes of Martinelli, Odegaard and Saka all ended up being priced lowly by FPL. This season, the midfield trio are all likely to receive a hefty price rise, but I still think they're worth including. I am wary of Martinelli's minutes across the season, especially when Champions League group matches come around, but to begin with I think he'll be a regular feature in the starting 11. What a fantastic second half of the campaign Marcus Rashford had, picking up 17 attacking returns from Gameweek 17. Last season was the first season since Sir Alex Ferguson retired that Man United looked a lot more like their old selves, keeping games tight and finishing 3rd in the league while reaching 2 cup finals. There are rumours that United are looking to bring in another number 9. However, I still think Rashford will be their main man for goals, and under Ten Hag he played close to 90 minutes week in, week out. Although United have a mixed run of opening fixtures, I expect them to start the season strong from an attacking sense. Although Brighton have lost McAllister to Liverpool, I still think they'll have another strong season under De Zerbi. Mitoma was one of their standout players following the turn of the year, and he was a key reason why they ended up finishing in a European spot. The Japanese international returned a very respectable 7 goals and 9 assists in the 22-23 season, and this year the Seagulls start off their campaign facing Luton, Wolves and West Ham, which look to be 3 fantastic fixtures on paper. I do expect there to be a fair amount of rotation for Brighton, especially with European games to consider, but for the large part I think Mitoma nails down that left wing position. Martin Odegaard finished the campaign with an extraordinary 9 double-digit hauls in FPL, and he was probably the main creator of chances for an Arsenal team that netted 88 times in the Premier League last season. Similarly to Martinelli, I'll be keeping a close eye on Odegaard's minutes and his potential rotation when the Champions League comes around, but I think he's a great pick for the opening of the season. He ended last year as the second top scoring midfielder in the game with 212 points, and 30 of those came from bonus points. So when he plays well, he's often favoured by the FPL bonus point system. I had 6.5 million left to spend on the final midfield spot, and I'm filling it with the other Brighton winger, Solly March. I've heard plenty of fantasy managers considering the likes of Enciso or even Pascal Gross, but Brighton have a number of players that can play in those central attacking positions, including Dennis Undav and their new signing João Pedro. I personally think that March did enough last season to prove that he should be first choice playing on the right wing, and along with taking set pieces, I presume he'll be amongst the goalmouth action. He missed practically the whole final quarter of the season, but still managed to rack up 6 goals and 10 assists. Erling Haaland obviously makes it into my starting 11. There's just the question of how he'll be priced when the official FPL game launches. Man City probably have the easiest set of fixtures to kick off the season with, so really the key talking point is whether to include more than just Haaland in the team. I actually think that many fantasy managers will be walking a tightrope if they decide to go all out on City, mainly due to the looming threat of rotation on a weekly basis. One key thing we should consider is the fact we'll only be getting one wildcard this season, so transfers will be precious, and so loading up on City assets could be a huge risk. Originally I wanted Harry Kane in this final forward spot, but unfortunately his price tag of 12.5 million disrupted the quality of my midfield players, and so I've decided on an interesting pick instead. With Ivan Toney banned until January, it's likely that Yoane Wissa will be reclassified as a forward this season in FPL. If there's one thing I've noticed about Wissa, it's that when he plays he tends to score. He showed this by returning 7 goals and 4 assists in very limited minutes across the 22-23 campaign. I'm personally excited to see what he can do being the focal point, playing close to 90 minutes consistently for the Bees, and I believe he'll turn out to be the best low-budget forward in the game, which means that making the bench I've gone for Peacock Farrell, Pinnock, Patterson and Billy Sharp. I don't expect to have any use of any of these bench players, but I think it's important to have at least one player who's guaranteed to start for their team each week. After the season kicks off, there will be injuries and surprise benchings, and that was one factor that really harmed my rank last year in FPL. Pinnock is a player who can come on for me in the weeks where Brentford have a good fixture defensively. With Seamus Coleman picking up a bad injury at the end of last season, I expect Patterson to make it into the starting 11 for the 23-24 campaign. I don't expect any 4.5 million priced forwards to get much game time, but I think Sharp could make a few cameos off the bench. Obviously, the big players I've left out of this draft include the likes of Kane, Salah and Saka. Of course I'd love to have them, but with their premium prices, I just don't think I have enough budget to include them while optimising the rest of the team. I figure that because Haaland will be an almost permanent captain, it's better to spread the remaining funds equally amongst the rest of the squad. But what do you think? Let me know your thoughts down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the FPL break. Take care, and I'll see you again soon.